35. It's about Joseph who tells his brothers who he is. Since Joseph could no longer control his feelings in front of his servants, he sent them out of the room. When he was alone with his brothers, he told them, "I am Joseph." Then he cried so loudly that the Egyptians heard him and told about it in the king's palace. Joseph asked his brothers if his father was still alive, but they were too frightened to answer. Joseph told them to come closer to him, and when they did, he said, "Yes, I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. Don't worry or blame yourselves for what you did. God is the one who sent me ahead of you to save lives. There has already been a famine for 2 years, and for 5 more years no one will plow fields or harvest grain. But God sent me on ahead of you to keep your families alive and to save you in this wonderful way. After all, you weren't really the ones who sent me here. It was God. He made me the highest official in the king's court and placed me over all Egypt. Now hurry back and tell my father that his son Joseph says, 'God has made me ruler of Egypt. Come here as quickly as you can. You will live near me in the region of Goshen with your children and grandchildren, as well as with your sheep, goats, cattle, and everything else you own. I will take care of you there during the next 5 years of famine. But if you don't come, you and your family and your animals will starve to death. All of you, including my brother Benjamin, can tell by what I have said that I really am Joseph. Tell my father about my great power here in Egypt and about everything you have seen. Hurry and bring him here." Joseph and Benjamin hugged each other and started crying. Joseph was still crying as he kissed each of his other brothers. After this, they started talking with Joseph.
Praise the Lord.
Last week, we found Joseph being sold off by his brothers to a caravan. And it really wasn't all that simple. We discussed this in Bible and Bagels this morning. I think if Joseph were my brother, I wouldn't like him. He was a braggart. Dad told me to go check up on you, and you're not doing what you're supposed to, and I'm going to go back and tell him. Would you like a brother like that? I don't think so. And he just finally got on their nerves to the point where some of them even wanted to kill him. So off he is sold to a caravan trade and he goes to Egypt. And now his life wasn't really all that easy to start out with when he was in Egypt. He became a servant in a military, I don't know what rank they used back in those days, but he was a military leader. And then his wife accused him of trying to rape her. And it wasn't true. Haven't you been accused of something that wasn't true? And you got maybe punished? Well, that's what happened to him. And he ends up in prison. And it's only while he's in prison that he has these dreams that he's the only one that can answer them. And the king is impressed and gets him out of prison. And at some point he gets to be the head of the grain and being doling it out. Because he had a dream that there'd be so many years of great grain crops and another many years of famine. And it's because of dreaming that and people taking his dream seriously that they were able to save up a lot of grain. So when the bad times came, they were able to help people and keep them from starving to death. What I like most about Joseph is his attitude. Things did not always go his way, did they? And can you imagine being sold off by your brothers? And then not hating them for the rest of your lives? Can you imagine being accused by somebody of doing something that you didn't do at all, that landed you in prison, and still not being angry and resentful? Joseph realized who was in control, and he realized that God was truly guiding his life, and that amid all this adversity, blessings upon blessings upon blessings were part of what he experienced. And so they sort of had a gap in the story, because last week we did the selling him off, and now he's getting grain to his brothers. A lot of stuff happened in between that time. But what we're doing today is to show how he was able to let go of his anger and resentment for what they had done to him. And he realized that by going to Egypt and being able to feed them, he was able to not only save his own family, but many other families in that region of the world. It's hard not to be angry when things don't go your way. I had a friend who was from Tennessee. Her name was Andrea. And she came from a very, very strict church that everybody's going to go to hell except for maybe the pastor. You did this, you're going to go to hell. You did that, you're going to go to hell. So what happened? She had an affair with her English teacher when she was in high school and got pregnant. And what made it even worse, she was white and he was black. Oh my goodness, you would hear the end of that. Well, her church had a home for unwed mothers. And so that's where her family sent her. And while she was there in this home, she was told about what a bad girl she was. And now she's being punished by being pregnant. Isn't that a way to honor a new life coming into the world? But that's what happened. And so when she had the baby, she decided to give it up for adoption. But the baby was given up for adoption from that church that she had come from and was probably raised in the same tradition. My mother's terrible. She's no good, and she gave me away. And, you know, I should feel bad about myself. What made it worse than anything, her mother was a lesbian. And she was so hated by people in her own family, they couldn't accept her. And her daughter, not knowing anything, did one of those searches where you could try to find your birth mother, and found her. And when she found out about her mother, she didn't want to have anything to do with her. So that was another hate that Andrea had experienced. But then the good news, there is a God. That her daughter became a mother herself. And she thought it was good that her daughter would get to know her grandmother. That she had another grandmother beside the one of her husband. And they got together. And they embraced. And there was a lot of forgiving going on both sides. And they were reconciled. And now they're really part of a beautiful family. And the only way you can reconcile is you have to let go of that which is making you angry. You have to let go. And then reconciliation can take place. Another friend of mine, I'll call him Jimmy, lost his mother when he was 8 years of age. And he and his father were really close. They did all kinds of really cool things together. They went fishing, and they would do their homework together, and they would go places and have picnics. But then the father thought, I really need a woman in my house. Jimmy needs a mother. Not a good idea sometimes. And so what happened is that when Jimmy was 10 years of age, his father remarried, and now Jimmy had a stepmother. And he really, really resented her. And she really, really resented him. She had not been married before. She thought she would have this man to herself. And Jimmy was kind of in the way. And he, with his asthma and other kinds of ailments, really sometimes was a lot for her to contend with. And so she was finally able to convince her husband to send him away to boarding school when he was 13. That did it. He had it with his evil stepmother as far as he was concerned. And so he didn't want to have anything to do with her. And so the time came when his father passed away. And there he was at the funeral. And there was his stepmother. And the stepmother was the one that came to him. She said, I am so sorry of what I have done to you. I realized that I was jealous of you and that I wanted your father all to myself. And I realized how hurt you've been. And then he said, well, I realized why I felt that way about you, that you intruded on my life and that you took your father away from me, my father away from you. And the two of them embraced. And she became the mother that he had really wanted in his life. story I'd like to share with you. I'll call him Mike. He is a colleague of mine who was in a church where the people were not really very nice to their pastors. They had gone through quite a few of them, usually accusing them of something or just saying that their sermons weren't inspiring. Oh, heavens. You need to get inspired every week, right? Yes? Everybody's so quiet right now. Uh-oh, yeah, I'm in trouble. Anyway, I had just come up here into the San Gabriel Valley. I didn't really know very many people. And I met Mike. And he was really having problems. A lot of people in his church didn't like him. Okay? You can't please everybody, can you? No. But what had happened is that he and his wife had gone out to dinner. And it was in a place where they also have a bar. And because there was no room at the regular tables, he and his wife were sitting at the bar. They had their meal there. And he had a scotch and water. Okay? Oh, heavens. Mike is an alcoholic. And we're talking about one scotch and water. All right? Just one. That's not the way somebody saw it, because they didn't like him. So they started this rumor campaign that Mike was an alcoholic. And so it got to be really, really ugly. There was nothing that he had done in the church on a Sunday morning or in any kind of a meeting or activity that showed that he wasn't of a sober mind. But that didn't satisfy some of these folks. And what was so sad, they still had children in school. And so without saying anything, he right away looked for another parish. And he finally found it. But his poor children had to be uprooted out of their school right in the middle of the school calendar year. And that was hard, very difficult. Then they had to find housing and other kinds of things that were important in their lives. He was very, very happy at this new church. He really, really enjoyed being there. The people seemed to receive him well. They didn't think his sermons were boring. It was really, really a great situation. And then about 15 years later, he was honored at one of our conference annual gatherings. And a person from that other church, who was a clinical psychologist, who should have known better, who was there to observe him, to see that he obviously was not an alcoholic, bought into you might say, the bandwagon of people not liking him and, oh, he has a drinking problem. And came up to him and said, I am so sorry. I realized that I got caught up in something that I should have known better. I'm a professional. I know when somebody has a drinking problem, and you obviously aren't one of them. And the reconciliation that took place, and all the resentment and all the bad feelings that he had about that church just melted away. Because he realized that holding on to anger really doesn't help. All of us have gone through a lot, haven't we? Everyone. We've had people betray us. We have had people have rumors about us. We could have even lost a friend, a family member, a job, all sorts of things because of what people have said that obviously are not true. The thing is, holding on to it is what makes our life miserable. And just like that mother who lost her daughter in Virginia, who was killed by a car that ran into her. And all she was there protesting, but she didn't have a baseball bat, she didn't have any weapon. She was just there standing up for what she believed was right, and gets killed. I heard the mother being interviewed on television. And she says, I don't want my daughter's life to be in vain. I want to do something and say something and be out there and bold, that she was standing up for people that want everyone to be loved and respected. And I'm going to do something in her name that will really make a difference. And this was the way she handled it. She could have just been bitter and saying, that rotten guy, I hope they hang him up on a tree. She didn't do that, did she? she said, I want my daughter's life to have meant something. And so she had to let go and let God. Amen. I invite